I don't know. They cheated on a commercial. Ronald Reagan loved tariffs, and they said he didn't. And I guess it was AI or something. They cheated badly. Canada got caught cheating on a commercial. Can you believe it?
Canada got caught cheating on a commercial. Can you believe it? Well, no, I can't believe it. What I can believe, though, is that anytime Donald Trump gets humiliated on the world stage, he is going to whine, he is going to cry, and he is going to accuse people of rigging something against him, accuse it of being fake, and I guess now his new shtick will be to call things AI when he gets humiliated. Twice now, Canada has ran an ad during the World Series where Ronald Reagan is talking about tariffs. And I just want to start off this video with saying this. I'm not a fan of Ronald Reagan. I never have been. I wouldn't vote for a Ronald Reagan type Republican if he was here today. I really do believe that the Ronald Reagans and the Richard Nixons of the world is who paved the way for Donald Trump. And if they're rolling over in their graves, it's not because they're upset at what he's doing. It's that they're upset that he got away with it and they didn't. But that said, Ronald Reagan was no fan of tariffs. And I'm going to play you the original clip that they've been playing during the World Series, and you can see for yourself. Now, Donald Trump has tried his damnedest to accuse them of editing this video or it being AI. It's been fact-checked, and while that it was edited for time, there's no AI here, folks. Ronald Reagan really did say these things, and here they are.
Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. Now, there are sound historical reasons for this. For those of us who lived through the Great Depression, the memory of the suffering it caused is deep and searing. And today, many economic analysts and historians argue that high tariff legislation passed back in that period, called the Smoot-Hawley Tariff, greatly deepened the Depression and prevented economic recovery. You see, at first, when someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. What eventually occurs is, first, homegrown industries start relying on government protection in the form of high tariffs. They stop competing and stop making the innovative management and technological changes they need to succeed in world markets. And then, while all this is going on, something even worse occurs. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. The result is more and more tariffs, higher and higher trade barriers, and less competition. So soon, because of the prices made artificially high by tariffs that subsidize inefficiency and poor management, people stop buying. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. The memory of all this occurring back in the 30s made me determined when I came to Washington to spare the American people the protectionist legislation that destroys prosperity. Now, it hasn't always been easy. There are those in the Congress, just as there were back in the 30s, who want to go for the quick political advantage, who risk America's prosperity for the sake of a short-term appeal to some special interest group, who forget that more than 5 million American jobs are directly tied to the foreign export business, and additional millions are tied to imports. Well, I've never forgotten those jobs, and on trade issues, by and large, we've done well.
So I just want to point out that that used to be the face of the Republican Party years ago. And I remember during the George W. Bush years, he would always go back and reference Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan used to be a hero in the Republican Party. But let's just be realistic. If a Republican came out today and said that, if that was Thomas Massie saying that, if that was a Rand Paul saying that, if that was an Adam Kinzinger saying that, anyone like that, or a Liz Cheney, what would Donald Trump be calling anyone that said that? He would be calling them a rhino. He would be saying that they were full of shit, they were crazy, he would be calling them a rhino. But because it's Ronald Reagan and he realizes that that used to be the face and like the godfather of the Republican Party, he doesn't want to rock that boat, and so he's trying to accuse Canada of twisting it or making it AI or it not being real, because that's how far that the Republican Party has fallen from Ronald Reagan to whatever in the hell this is with Donald Trump. And I want to say that I truly don't view Ronald Reagan as a Republican or Donald Trump, excuse me. I don't view Donald Trump as a Republican or a Democrat. To me, he is an opportunist who is all about himself and all about lining his own pockets, and he will use whatever political party or whatever tool he can to get ahead in this world. But speaking of how far that the Republicans have fallen from Ronald Reagan to now Donald Trump, I would like to point out another clip of Ronald Reagan. And again, I'm not his biggest fan, but ask yourself, what would Trump say about a Republican if they came along today saying this?
You can go to live in France, but you cannot become a Frenchman. You can go to live in Germany or Turkey or Japan, but you cannot become a German, a Turk, or Japanese. But anyone from any corner of the earth can come to live in America and become an American. Yes, the torch of Lady Liberty symbolizes our freedom and represents our heritage, the compact with our parents, our grandparents, and our ancestors. It is that lady who gives us our great and special place in the world. For it's the great life force of each generation of new Americans that guarantees that America's triumph shall continue unsurpassed into the next century and beyond. Other countries may seek to compete with us, but in one vital area, as a beacon of freedom and opportunity that draws the people of the world, no country on earth comes close. This, I believe, is one of the most important sources of America's greatness. We lead the world because, unique among nations, we draw our people, our strength, from every country and every corner of the world. And by doing so, we continuously renew and enrich our nation. While other countries cling to the stale past, here in America, we breathe life into dreams, we create the future, and the world follows us into tomorrow. Thanks to each wave of new arrivals to this land of opportunity, we're a nation forever young, forever bursting with energy and new ideas, and always on the cutting edge, always leading the world to the next frontier. This quality is vital to our future as a nation. If we ever close the door to new Americans, our leadership in the world would soon be lost.
You know, I cannot imagine any Republican saying that today, that Donald Trump wouldn't go off on a tirade and call them a rhino. But as I'm sitting there listening to that, I'm saying to myself, this is a president who I disagreed with. This is a president who I wouldn't vote for if he was alive today. But I'm sitting there listening to a man speak in a presidential manner. Love Reagan or hate him, he spoke in a presidential manner. And all we have heard from Donald Trump since he came down that escalator is a WWE-style heel who just goes out and insults as many people as he possibly can and uses the most hateful, divisive rhetoric ever. He cannot speak about a political opponent without calling them a radical left lunatic. I have never one time heard Donald Trump refer to anyone on our side as someone he can work with or say that we were reasonable in any way. He draws a line in the sand. He calls us the enemy from within. He says we should be rooted out like vermin. We should be swatted like gnats. And then people looks back at us and tells us to turn down the temperature. Well, we could easily turn it down by just pointing to someone like Reagan in those clips and saying, hey, that's how a Republican used to talk, and that is the tone that they used to use, and Donald Trump has fell far from that. I am of the belief that what makes this country great is our strength and our diversity, and people coming here to live out the American dream, people coming here to make a better way for themselves. But Donald Trump left that in the dustbin of history a long time ago. He wants nothing to do with it. He wants to demonize anyone coming to this country. And he wants it to be a country that is in his image, which is a rich, lush, billionaire type of playground. And he will use working poor. He will use those people to his advantage. He will lie and spend anything he can to use to get ahead in this world so he can build a big ballroom and hang out with all the elitists and look down on all the peons who vote for him. And then when he gets caught and someone says, hey, look what Republicans used to say in America, then he turns and says it's all a lie and it was AI and it was taken out of context. And there'll be people saying, yeah, but they edited that, man. That wasn't the whole video. They edited part of it out for their commercial. Well, what people need to understand is that anytime we're making videos, when I'm making videos here on the channel, yeah, I'll see Donald Trump speak for an hour, and trust me, my brain's fried after I do it, but I will go back, and if I can pick out a minute and a half, 90 seconds, or hell, even 30 seconds, where he says something completely over the top ridiculous, then yeah, I can use that to talk about it. Because, of course, we're not going to sit here and make 3-hour videos every time we sit down to make one. Of course, we're going to put it into the size of a video, or in some cases, you would put it into the size of an ad or a reel. But Ronald Reagan wasn't a fan of tariffs, and Ronald Reagan also believed in people coming to this country, which is something Donald Trump has fell far from. And I guess when he looks around at the world and sees all the people protesting him and realizes just how unpopular he is, not only is he building a bunker, but he's also trying to get Republicans to look away from just how far they've fallen. And so while I'm no fan of Ronald Reagan or the Bushes, you could easily play clips of either of them, and you could debunk Donald Trump and show people just how far they have failed from the Republican Party. Donald Trump's not a Republican. Donald Trump's not a Democrat. He is an opportunist who have used people to his advantage to get ahead in this world. He did not run for president ever to be to help this country, to help you. He did it to help himself and to further his business. And then the second go around, he did it to duck and dodge any accountability for all the crimes that he committed the first time. And now he's he's committing crimes right in front of our face. And anytime we point him out, oh, it's okay, man, he can do that. So that's the world that we live in. But yeah, I'm not giving Reagan a pass. I think he was a terrible president. I think Nixon was a terrible president. And if they're rolling over in their graves, it's because they wasn't able to get away with the stuff Trump has. But then again, people weren't that... Well, I think people have always been stupid. I started to say people weren't always that stupid. No, I think there's always been stupid people out there. But there was a time when we spoke to each other in a more respectful way, and Donald Trump left that a long time ago, and so now here we are. And all we can do is just try to get it back to a time when we can speak to each other and speak to political opponents without saying radical left lunatics and all this ridiculous garbage that Trump throws. But I do appreciate y'all so much for supporting me here on the channel. If you haven't already, be sure and hit that subscribe button and help us get to 1 million subscribers. I do appreciate each and every one of you. And yeah, really the easiest way these days to piss off Donald Trump and Republicans is just to quote Republicans. So try that next time, because it's not going to do you any good to quote a Democrat. So the next time, just start quoting someone, and when they say, who was that radical left lunatic? That was Ronald Reagan. And then just say to yourself, if Reagan was alive today, Trump would be calling him a rhino.